Colorado's high-definition news leader. This is News Channel 13, where the news comes first.
Good afternoon, I'm Heather Skold.
And I'm Rob Namnoon. Breaking news this afternoon. The jury reaches a verdict in the James Holmes trial. It'll be read in about 15 minutes.
Holmes is on trial for the massacre at a theater in Aurora. 12 people died, dozens were hurt. The verdict comes just 4 days short of the 3rd anniversary of the shootings. And KRDO News Channel 13's Rena Novini is live outside the Arapahoe County Courthouse. And Rena, so many families are looking for justice today.
Yeah, absolutely they are, Rob and Heather. We're here outside the courthouse right now. As you guys mentioned, we're expecting the judge to start reading the verdict in about 15 minutes. We're expecting it to take 90 minutes for the judge to get through all 165 counts against James Holmes. As you guys mentioned, family survivors are coming here to the courthouse this afternoon hoping for a guilty verdict in this case. We just saw a few minutes ago Caleb Medley and his family enter the courthouse. Caleb, as you remember, was injured. He's from southern Colorado. He was paralyzed from gunshot wounds during the attack. This verdict comes fairly quickly. We heard some speculation that it could come as soon as today because jurors have tomorrow off, but still they have only been deliberating for less than 2 days. They just started yesterday, and this trial started in April, so they had a lot of testimony to get through. The jury's deciding whether or not Holmes was legally sane when he opened fire in an Aurora theater 3 years ago. If the jurors find him guilty, we will enter the sentencing phase of the trial, and prosecutors are asking for the death penalty. If he is found not guilty, he will spend the rest of his life in a mental health facility. Again, the judge will start reading the verdict in about 15 minutes. We are here live. We also have a crew inside the courthouse, and we will bring you that verdict as soon as it's reached. Rob and Heather, back to you.
All right, thank you, Rena. Rena Novini reporting live outside the courthouse.
We want to take a live look of the courtroom itself now. As everyone is filing in, you can see everyone taking their places. You can see James Holmes sitting. It appears that he is wearing somewhat of a blue shirt and the upper left-hand side of your screen. That's where he has been staged this entire trial when it began several months ago. As you well know, as Rana just mentioned, he is facing 165 counts. The jurors will have to decide whether he is sane or insane. Let's take a listen.
At about 1 o'clock this afternoon, the jury sent a note that reads as follows. The jury has reached a verdict on all charges, and it is signed by the foreperson. I have marked the note as deliberations question number 5 and included the case number and today's date. Before I bring the jury in, I want to address the gallery for just a moment. This is a public trial, and I want everyone to feel welcome and comfortable here. That is important to me. However, you must observe proper courtroom decorum. I am sensitive to the fact that this case may evoke powerful emotions. I fully understand that. For that reason, I have not prohibited emotional reactions. To the contrary, in Order D-79, I recognize that some visible emotional reactions are inevitable and appropriate. What I have prohibited are audible comments and emotional outbursts that may improperly influence the jury. If at any time you feel the onset of an emotional outburst, please quietly and discreetly exit the courtroom.
You were just listening into the courtroom at the James Holmes trial. The judge giving instructions to those in the courtroom, basically telling them once the verdict is read at 4:15, which we are going to show to you, he does not want any reaction or any emotions in this courtroom.
And there are several decisions or outcomes here at play. Of course, 165 counts, but the big question is whether Holmes was sane or insane when he opened fire in that Aurora movie theater complex nearly 3 years ago. We will check back in here. The verdict is set to be announced at 4:15. We will bring it to you live right here on KRDO News Channel 13.
And that's what the jury has been deliberating for the better part of 2 days. Was James Holmes sane or insane when he let loose all those bullets on July 20th in the Aurora Theater shooting? that killed 12 people and injured dozens.
70 people hurt in that. We will bring that to you straight when it is announced right here on KRDO News Channel 13.
All right, on to other news. Gunfire breaks out in Chattanooga, Tennessee. Police and military personnel were hit.
New on News Channel 13, Marcy Gonzalez has that story.
A spray of bullets fired at 2 military centers in Chattanooga.
It is incomprehensible to see what happened and the way that individuals who proudly serve our country were treated.
An officer injured and several Marines killed. The gunman targeting this combined armed forces recruiting center and a nearby naval center.
So apparently there's a shooter at the tree line.
Shooting, witnesses say, from the driver's seat of a car.
We saw the silver convertible Mustang, and he was just unloading some type of large rifle.
And the next thing you know, he lifted up his arms like this with a big black gun, and just, it was one shot, and then it was just endless shots, one after another, just unloading into the Army.
Police and the FBI rushing to the scenes, tracking down the alleged gunman, who they say is now dead. And investigators still have not released any information about the gunman, but the state's attorney says this is being treated as a case of domestic terrorism. Marcy Gonzalez, ABC News, New York.
And President Obama is getting updates from his staff concerning the shooting. We'll show you why President Obama was in prison today, coming up in our next half hour. A woman is seeking legal action after she says a Colorado Springs police officer used excessive force against her.
Surveillance video from 2013 shows the moment 18-year-old Alexis Acker kicked Officer Tyler Walker. Walker then throws Acker to the ground. Acker's attorney tells us she still suffers from symptoms of head trauma and is seeking $500,000 in damages. Acker's attorney says her client was held accountable and hopes the police officer is too.
Well, another just gorgeous day here in southern Colorado. An easy day for those in our weather department.
Yeah, let's show you a picture from the city above the clouds. Woodland Park, 74 degrees there. Very calm winds. Let's get you over to Storm Tracker 13 Chief Meteorologist Rachel Platt, who's tracking a spectacular day. Hey, Rachel.
Absolutely. Yeah, Mother Nature is certainly giving us a break from severe weather out there today, something that we have deserved, in my opinion. We are continuing to track very warm temperatures across southern Colorado. It's 81 degrees currently in Colorado Springs, with temperatures in the low 90s from Pueblo out to Lamar. 89 degrees the current temperature in Trinidad. Taking a few more looks around southern Colorado. Here's from Walsenburg. Plenty of blue skies overhead and in Pueblo. Not a cloud in the sky from that shot from our partners at the Pueblo Chieftain. 89 degrees the current temperature there. Want to show you Storm Tracker 13 live HD Doppler radar, and we're really not seeing much out there today. The only area where we are getting a bit of activity is up across northeastern Colorado, north and east of Denver. We'll continue to track these storms as they drift off toward the east. For the remainder of the evening, you can expect clouds to stick around through about 9 o'clock, but then as we head toward midnight and early tomorrow morning, the clouds are going to break up. Temperatures dropping into the 60s and 70s tonight. Tomorrow is going to be a carbon copy of today, but what about the weekend? I'll let you know if this dry pattern is going to last through both your Saturday and Sunday. Coming up with your 7-day forecast, that's in just a little bit. Guys, back to you.
Okay, thanks, Rachel. Mosquitoes in Pueblo have tested positive for the West Nile virus. The City County Health Department confirmed that this afternoon. Because of the heavy rain we've had this year, there's a higher population of mosquitoes. So far, there have been no human cases of West Nile in Pueblo County. Public health officials are urging people to protect themselves. West Nile develops in the human body within 5 to 14 days after a bite from an infected mosquito. You can protect yourself by remembering the 4 Ds. Drain standing water, wear repellent with DEET, dress in long sleeves and pants where mosquitoes are active, and limit outdoor activities around dusk and dawn. The trial against admitted shooter James Holmes has run for weeks. Now a verdict is in. KRDO News Channel 13 is live from the Arapahoe County Courthouse with that decision.
Also, President Obama heading to prison, why his push for prison reform landed him in jail.
jury has reached verdicts on all the charges. Is that correct? Correct. All right. Would you please tender all of the verdict forms with the instructions and any questions that were submitted during deliberations and any answers provided by the court to my bailiff, Ms. Zagel? Thank you. Ms. Gurley, could you please check those? Make sure they're all in there. Thank you.
Back to the James Holmes verdict here from the Arapahoe County Courthouse. This is a live look from inside the courtroom. You can see James Holmes sitting in the upper left-hand side of your screen. The judge is going through all of the ballots right now, 165 counts. Those are all the counts that the jury had to consider and come up with a verdict for on this trial. The jury has been seated. We saw all the people in the courtroom that we can from this angle rise as those jurors were then seated in their seats, the same seats that they've sat in for the past several months. We are just awaiting that verdict to be read. Yeah, the jury is deliberating and has for the better part of 2 days. They were trying to figure out if James Holmes was insane or sane during the time of the shooting on July 20th of 2012. As Heather mentioned, 165 counts, 24 counts of murder, 140 counts of attempted murder, and 1 count of possession of an explosive device. This trial began in April, and they listened to hours and hours of testimony from 256 witnesses. Let's check in on the weather now with Rachel Plath. Rachel.
Well, we are obviously tracking a fairly quiet day of weather across southern Colorado, and it's going to stay fairly quiet here over the next couple of days. It's going to stay warm and dry again tomorrow with another nice day on Saturday. Things will change, though, just in time for the second half of the weekend as we track a cold front that will push through early on Sunday. Taking you outside tomorrow morning, it's going to start off very similar to the conditions we had this morning. Plenty of sunshine expected through the first half of your Friday. High clouds will then start to stream in from the south right around lunchtime. And just like we had out there today, once again tomorrow, the best chance for any storms is really going to be up across the high country, so we cannot completely rule out a few isolated sprinkles, but tomorrow should be very similar to today. One of the differences will be that tomorrow is going to be even warmer than it was out there today. We're expecting temperatures tonight to drop into the 50s and 60s. High temperatures tomorrow getting into the 80s and 90s, so it's going to be a toasty Friday, and temperatures are going to stay warm through Saturday. Saturday looking for a high of 85 degrees. Just a 10% chance for storms both days, and then as a cold front moves through, Sunday we are expecting temperatures to fall to 75 degrees. 76 on Monday with a 30% chance for storms both Sunday and Monday, so things are going to get fairly active once again late this weekend and into early next week. In Pueblo tomorrow, 96 degrees will be your high temperature. We'll keep it dry through Saturday, but then the storm chances are going to bump up behind the cold front on Sunday, dropping into the low 80s. In Canyon City tomorrow, your high temperature 90 degrees. We'll drop it to 88 on Saturday, bringing a 10% chance for storms with a 20% chance for storms Sunday into Monday. Teller County, a daily chance for storms, but things looking to be the most active Sunday, Monday, with temperatures falling into the 60s. Guys, back to you.
Thank you, Rachel. Let's get you back to that Arapahoe County Courthouse where the verdict is set to begin and be read very quickly. Let's take a look at that courtroom right now. There are 3 basic outcomes from this trial here. The jurors could find James Holmes sane, and they could find him guilty. In that case, the jury then goes to the penalty phase, which is estimated to last about 1 month. The jurors will decide if James Holmes would be put to death. There's another outcome. They could find him guilty of second-degree murder or even manslaughter. That would likely put Holmes in prison for the rest of his life. The third outcome here, potentially, they could find him not guilty or insane. In that case, James Holmes would be taken to the state mental hospital in Pueblo. Let's listen to the verdict.
Verdict form, count 1, murder in the first degree after deliberation. Jonathan Blanc. We, the jury, find the defendant, James Egan Holmes, guilty of murder in the first degree after deliberation. That's part A. Part B is left unmarked. Part C. Did the defendant use or possess and threaten the use of a deadly weapon? Answer, yes. Verdict form, count 2, murder in the first degree after deliberation. Alexander Boyk. We, the jury, find the defendant, James Egan Holmes, guilty of murder in the first degree after deliberation. Part B is left unmarked. And Part C reads, did the defendant use or possess and threaten the use of a deadly weapon? Answer, yes. Verdict form, count 3, murder in the first degree after deliberation. Jesse Childress. We, the jury, find the defendant, James Egan Holmes, guilty of murder in the first degree after deliberation. Part B is left unanswered, and Part C is marked yes in response to the question that I mentioned a couple of times already. Verdict form, count 4, murder in the first degree after deliberation. Gordon Cowden. We, the jury, find the defendant, James Egan Holmes, guilty of murder in the first degree after deliberation. Part B is left unanswered, and Part C is marked yes. Verdict form, count 5, murder in the first degree after deliberation. We, the jury, find the defendant, James Egan Holmes, guilty of murder in the first degree after deliberation. Part B is left unanswered. Part C is answered yes. Verdict form, count 6, murder in the first degree after deliberation. John Larimer. We, the jury, find the defendant, James Egan Holmes, guilty of murder in the first degree after deliberation. Part B is left unanswered. The answer to Part C is yes. Verdict form, count 7, murder in the first degree after deliberation. Matthew McQuinn. We, the jury, find the defendant, James Egan Holmes, guilty of murder in the first degree after deliberation. Part B is left unanswered, and the answer to the question on Part C is yes. Verdict form, count 8, murder in the first degree after deliberation. Michaela Medic. We, the jury, find the defendant, James Egan Holmes, guilty of murder in the first degree after deliberation. Part B is left unanswered, and the answer to Part C is yes. Verdict form, count 9, murder in the first degree after deliberation. Veronica Mosier Sullivan. We, the jury, find the defendant, James Egan Holmes, guilty of murder in the first degree after deliberation. Part B is left unanswered, and the answer on Part C is yes. Verdict form, count 10, murder in the first degree after deliberation. Alex Sullivan. We, the jury, find the defendant, James Egan Holmes, guilty of murder in the first degree after deliberation. Part B is left unanswered, and the answer on Part C is yes. Verdict form, count 11, murder in the first degree after deliberation. Alexander Teves. We, the jury, find the defendant, James Egan Holmes, guilty of murder in the first degree after deliberation. Part B is left unanswered, and the answer on Part C is yes. Verdict form, count 12, murder in the first degree after deliberation. Rebecca Wingo. We, the jury, find the defendant, James Egan Holmes, guilty of murder in the first degree after deliberation. Part B is left unanswered, and the answer on Part C is yes. Verdict form count 13, murder in the first degree, extreme indifference, Jonathan Blanc. We, the jury, find the defendant, James Egan Holmes, guilty of murder in the first degree, extreme indifference. Part B is left unanswered, and the answer on Part C is yes. Verdict form count 14, murder in the first degree, extreme indifference, Alexander Boyk. We, the jury, find the defendant, James Egan Holmes, guilty of murder in the first degree, extreme indifference. Part B is left unanswered, and the answer on Part C is yes. Verdict form count 15, murder in the first degree, extreme indifference, Jesse Childress. We, the jury, find the defendant, James Egan Holmes, guilty of murder in the first degree, extreme indifference. Part B is left unanswered, and the answer on Part C is yes. Verdict form count 16, murder in the first degree, extreme indifference, Gordon Cowden. We, the jury, find the defendant, James Egan Holmes, guilty of murder in the first degree, extreme indifference. Part B is left unanswered, and the answer on Part C is yes. Verdict form count 17, murder in the first degree, extreme indifference, Jessica Gawi. We, the jury, find the defendant, James Egan Holmes, guilty of murder in the first degree, extreme indifference. Part B is left unanswered. Part C is answered yes. Verdict form, count 18, murder in the first degree, extreme indifference, John Larimer. We, the jury, find the defendant, James Egan Holmes, guilty of murder in the first degree, extreme indifference. Part B is left unanswered, and the answer on Part C is yes. Verdict form count 19, murder in the first degree, extreme indifference, Matthew McQuinn. We, the jury, find the defendant, James Egan Holmes, guilty of murder in the first degree, extreme indifference. Part B is left unanswered, and the answer on Part C is yes. Verdict form count 20, murder in the first degree, extreme indifference, Michaela Medic. We, the jury, find the defendant, James Egan Holmes, guilty of murder in the first degree, extreme indifference. Part B is left unanswered, and the answer on Part C is yes. Verdict form count 21, murder in the first degree, extreme indifference, Veronica Mosher Sullivan. We, the jury, find the defendant, James Egan Holmes, guilty of murder in the first degree, extreme indifference. Part B is unanswered, and the answer on Part C is yes. Verdict form count 22, murder in the first degree, extreme indifference, Alex Sullivan. We, the jury, find the defendant, James Egan Holmes, guilty of murder in the first degree, extreme indifference. Part B is left unanswered, and the answer on Part C is yes. Verdict form count 23, murder in the first degree, extreme indifference, Alexander Teves. We, the jury, find the defendant, James Egan Holmes, guilty of murder in the first degree, extreme indifference. Part B is left unanswered, and the answer on Part C is yes. Verdict form, count 24, murder in the first degree, extreme indifference, Rebecca Wingo. We, the jury, find the defendant, James Egan Holmes, guilty of murder in the first degree, extreme indifference. Part B is left unanswered, and the answer on Part C is yes. Count 25, verdict form, count 25, attempt to commit murder in the first degree after deliberation, Petra Hogan. We, the jury, find the defendant, James Egan Holmes, guilty of attempt to commit murder in the first degree after deliberation. Part B is left unanswered, and the answer on Part C is yes. Verdict form, count 26, attempt to commit murder in the first degree after deliberation, Aiden Avila Arredondo. We, the jury, find the defendant, James.
So there you have it. James Holmes is guilty of killing 12 people. Not only guilty of killing them, but also guilty of having extreme indifference. The judge now going into all of the rest of the counts that James Holmes was accused of. As of right now, justice for those 12 families who lost their loved ones.
Yeah, and you will hear this will proceed for quite some time, maybe for the better part of an hour, because there were 165 counts against James Holmes. Let's go out to Rana Novini, who's live outside the Arapahoe County Courthouse. Rana.
Yeah, Robin, Heather, big news out here this afternoon. We are hearing the judge is finding James Holmes guilty, or the jury rather, finding him guilty of all 24 counts of murder. There were 2 separate counts for each victim, one of premeditated murder and one of extreme indifference. And as you guys just heard, the jurors found that he was in fact guilty on both of those. We are hearing the attempted murder charges now, but I think it's safe to say that if the jurors found that Holmes was legally sane at the time of the attack, they found him guilty of those murder charges. They will also find him guilty of the attempted murder charges. Monday will mark 3 years since that Aurora Theater shooting. It's about 13 miles away from this courthouse. A lot of victims, family members, survivors in the courthouse right now. As we're watching this stream, we can see prosecutors looking back at them and smiling. A lot of them relieved that jurors have thrown out his insanity plea and have in fact found him guilty and found that he was legally sane at the time of the shooting. We do have a crew inside the courthouse talking to family members as they're hearing this verdict, and we'll bring that for you coming up later on tonight on News Channel 13. For now, reporting live outside the Arapahoe County Courthouse, Rana Novini, KRDO News Channel 13.
All right, thank you for that, Rana, and we'll be right back to give you more information and what's currently going on in that courthouse. Stay with us.